Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Coach's Corner. I'm not on the live right now, but I'm recording because I don't trust any of these guys to actually record and upload a whole entire Zoom. But hope you guys enjoy. I'm going to hop off now.
All right. So for those of you that don't know, we record this obviously for a podcast. So Marina just did our intro for the podcast, and she's not going to be on today. She's being a giant pussy because she's sick. So she's out, and we recruited Justin Badurina, who was the only person we could think of that had. You're echoing so bad. Steve, you're echoing so bad. It's just your breath. It's just your breathing, Steve. Your fucking heavy ass breathing. But anyway, Justin was the next closest head of hair we could find to match Marina as close as we could. So we decided to go with him. Unfortunately, he didn't rock the hair down today. He's got it in a bun, but we appreciate you very much
for the invite. Let it be an hour full of anadrol and fun.
That's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. Now we're in it to win it. So who wants to kick it off? Should we kick it off with just like 3 minutes on this men's wellness category so we can get that out of the way? I'm sorry, Sam, but we got to get it out of the way. It's not a real thing. It's not a real thing. It's not coming. I think everybody saw that yesterday, right? Like everybody was up in arms big time. It's obviously not coming. It was never coming. It was never really a thing. It was just fucking Instagram fodder. And yeah, I think that's that. I don't think any of us, and I don't know for the rest of the guys, but I don't think any of us would necessarily be whatever. Do what you want, do what you do. It's all good. But at a certain point, I think we also all take bodybuilding pretty seriously in a way where, obviously Justin's a pro, Matt's a pro, Steve's going to be a pro at some point. This is something that I do for a living. So it's one of those things where it's like we don't like to see a mockery made out of anything. And I think that's pretty well established between all of us. Again, not trying to speak for anybody else. But outside of that, I don't think there's much else to be said here. I think it's a touchy topic, especially nowadays, and without trying to go too much deeper on it. I think we can leave it at that. If any of you guys have something you want to add, by all means.
All I'll add is that I would be the first men's wellness Mr. Olympia because of my legs. Just take off for a year to train gel. So I'd be the next Ronnie Coleman of men's wellness.
That's false.
I'd be the next Ronnie Coleman of men's wellness.
I would look forward to being able to strut my stuff in a thong. I probably would place just as well as I place it any other show, which is most likely dead last. But I would like to be there, and I would like to feel the freedom of just some sparkles in between my butt cheeks.
It's definitely interesting.
Yo, Elias.
We might have to get Elias on.
Next
time Marina Pussy's out, we'll hit you up, Elias.
You just got to wear a wig. You got to wear a wig.
Yeah. Gotta come correct. You got to come correct.
It's a very so the division is not going to be coming to the IFBB NPC, right? But it's in this Brazilian federation or in like South America, and it's I hate to say it's fucking weird. Like I'm not gonna have too much of a filter during this podcast and live, but it's definitely a weird division, and it's kind of feels like it's with the times of what's going on, and it's just weird. It's just weird. But to each their own,
Yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up. So I feel like I've never had to be so PC about something. You know what I mean? But we'll let it live. We'll let it live. Maybe I'll let something slip later, but for right now, we'll let it live. Steve, what do you got? Who's got the most questions? Justin, did you do well with questions?
Hey, what? I'm sorry. Yeah, I got a few questions.
Who wants to go first?
Justin, go.
I didn't get much because I posted it like last minute. I think if I remember correctly, I had someone just comment A-bombs. Not really a question, but a statement, and I love the statement.
Nice. That means
what else was a question? I did get a question about. I got a really good food one. Can I check it while I'm in here? Or no, I can't.
I usually write them down beforehand just because I get nervous about getting kicked out.
I'm gonna try to remember it while you guys are going because it was a pretty good one.
Steve, you want to go first? How many did you get, Steve?
I got 6.
All right, so we're on the same page. You go, I go, then we'll talk to Matt.
Do you recommend time off or a deload?
depends on the scenario. Sometimes time off, I'll tell somebody to take a few days off here and there. And I'll be specific with it. If it's on a Thursday check, and I might tell them take off Friday, Saturday, Sunday, eat up, and then get back to it on Monday. But that really depends on the scenario. Sometimes it might be a deload. But yeah, you know what? I err on the side of just taking time off for the most part. How many people that, like for myself personally, like I know if somebody told me go into the gym and do 50% of what you typically do, like I don't know, like I don't why. Like at that point, I'd rather just take off, quite honestly. Like I'm not really gonna enjoy that as much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'd rather just take off. But I think it can be dependent.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. So even myself, like I'll always rather just take the time off than deload. I'd rather just fully rest and give my body the rest of the, because if we're deloading, right, it's a sign obviously that your nervous system needs extra recovery. I'd rather just take off. You know what I mean? So just give it the full rest. So I'm with you there too.
Yeah, I think it's all dependent, like Tim was saying. I think like if you talk about an off season, for example, I do think it's important to take deloads and time off if that's your thing. Like personally, I don't like to take time off because I'm going to take off that, right? But I think it's important, right? Because like if you're in off season, you're obviously going to be getting stronger and stronger, heavier. So it's just more taxing on your body, right? Your joints and everything. It's smart to incorporate like a set deload every X amount of weeks or something like that, or set week off 12 weeks, 12-week blocks, and then I take a deload.
I don't I I'm more inclined to just take time off. To me, that like you said, like telling someone to go 50% of what they do, I think is just like I can't do it, so I wouldn't expect someone to do it. I think my version of a deload might be cutting back on sets, not necessarily intensity, which I understand, you're still going 100%, but if you got 2 sets of squat in someone's program, both are balls deep to failure, which I know not a lot of people know how to train to failure, but you cut back a second set of it, you're gonna help yourself, right? So like that's my version of like deloading would be cutting back volume, not intensity. When I think of just like cutting back altogether, I just would take time off. I can't not go 100% going into a like a top set, a back off set, like whatever it is. For me personally, I feel like I would rather just stay home. You know what I mean? That's me. But yeah, like a deload for me would be cutting back on volume versus intensity. But I know like someone's going to go into the technical.
Yeah, I'm also that's the type of shit that'll drive me nuts too. Like I'm not in the gym to do math. I'm not doing it. I know there's people out there that have like these specific things where it's like you do 40% of whatever you're like, dude, I'm not here for that shit. Like I'm not like even in a roundabout way. Like I'm not trying to figure that shit out. I'm not in the for that. I never am. I'd rather just take the time off. Elias asked a good question though. I think this is actually a really good question. Better to shoot for a full physique on stage and risk slightly spilling, or stay with a flatter look and come in nasty
peeled?
Yeah.
Depends.
That's what I was going to say. Honestly, I really
no,
think
that's a fair point, right?
Category.
Because like my mind immediately goes like NPC amateurs, like every single time go peeled. But like when we're talking about the pro league, it's a different story.
Yeah, I mean, I'm more inclined to agree with Steve and Matt. Like me personally, I'd rather come in peeled, than spill over a little bit. But again, I think it's person dependent. I think that it's also depending on, I mean, I don't know what we can and can't say here, but like the nationality of the person as well, right? And like how naturally shredded can they get?
Of course.
Because if not, maybe don't play that card and try to keep them full as hell. Because like we've seen people win shows bigger, fuller, that weren't as conditioned. We saw it at the Olympia this year. We saw some placings where it was like, this wasn't the most shredded person, but it worked for their physique. At the end of the day, every show is judged different based on the competitors that are there.
That's what I was saying. Is Steve judging? Because at that point, we're probably all better coming in blasting full, you know what I mean? And a little bit softer. But there's also category wise too. Like if it's men's physique, I want somebody to be peeled. Don't get me wrong. And I would never, ever, ever try to give the advice of don't come in peeled. That's one thing that we have in control, right? We're 100% in control of that. But some things we might not be as in control. I have a guy this year that's he's got a nasty physique. Justin, you've worked with him before. He's got a nasty physique. He's great. He can get peeled relatively. I don't want to say easily. That's one thing we know we have under our belt. We've been as peeled as we could possibly be. But he gives up a lot of size on stage. He's just not going to be the biggest guy up there right now. And as opposed to taking time off, he wanted to go into this season, right? And I sent you pictures of him too, Steve. But he wanted to go into the season and give it a shot this year. And it's like, all right, dude, but listen, the whole goal this year is we'll get as peeled as we've ever been, but I'm shooting to have you fucking full as a house. So come prepared, because peak week you're going to be eating, and like, don't lose your cool, don't lose your mind, because we're trying to go on that stage, full. But again, we're talking a men's physique competitor, which is I think when you're looking at it from division to division, the judging kind of gets a little hazy. We could always say, right, that you got to be bodybuilding is about muscularity and conditioning, right? And it's those two things combined are going to be like the winning, formula for just about anybody in any category. But I do think when you get into that men's physique division, we're really looking for a very full round physique, right? That tapers into a nice waist. And that to me is like, in and of itself, a little bit of a different, maybe criteria, if I'm using the word correctly there, in the sense that, again, that full physique, especially that full top line look, like that's probably going to yield the best outcome, especially when somebody's a little bit on the smaller side already. So I think it's definitely person dependent, especially too. Do we have that person that's got the shorter, rounder muscle bellies where they're going to accept food a little bit easier and have a little bit of a better look versus the person that's got a little bit of a longer, smaller muscle belly, so to speak, that flattens out a little bit easier, right? Like who's the person and what division are we in is what I would say.
Tim, I think I know who you're talking about. Can I blow up a spot, or do you not want to talk?
Go ahead.
Is it that DJ Chili?
Yes.
Dude, I saw
100%.
him at Big Cat. Actually, dude, I met you. I met you at Big Cat briefly after I won the overall. I was walking out and I saw you guys. And I said to him, like,
Nice.
dude, out of all the men's physique guys, he looked awesome. But dude, like his shape, he's like the epitome of men's physique, dude. He looks like fucking mini Jeremy Buendia, dude. His physique is awesome.
Yeah, that's what he loves. He loves that guy too. So he patterns himself in that way, but it's one of those things where shit. Did we just lose Matt? Matt, we just lost you.
I said Jeremy Buendia, and he got flagged.
Yo, what's up, Keon? We got Keon in here.
Nice. What's up, Keon?
Oh shit.
But yeah, it's one of those things where I really think it's the category. Like, Raph is a perfect example of somebody that he's going to give up, whatever 20 pounds on stage. You know what I mean? He might be the most shredded guy on there. He might have the best on stage. I think he was at Big Cat. He was 165, and the next show we did, he was 170. So again, getting him up to that 160 mark, like he was as peeled as like 152, 155 or something like that was the lowest body weight he was. We filled him back up into the 160s, but he freaked out a little bit and lost his mind and thought that he was going to spill.
No, there he is.
So DJ's, Raph is in? Oh, so we pulled back a little bit, but then for the next show, I talked to him, got his head right. We got him all the way up there. And we got a lot of compliments for the look that we had at the East Coast Championships or whatever it was.
Yeah, look good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Does he get the mini Jeremy Buendia thing a lot? I don't mean mini in a bad way. Like
no, he does. He does. There's skin tone and all that. You know what I mean? So yeah, he gets it.
People tell me that all the time too.
Yeah, I can see that too.
I get definitely not because of my height, but I get
Steve, your connection's whack.
We're losing you, Steve.
What? Right here.
Bye.
The night of technical fucking difficulties.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
No.
Yeah, you're in and out. But
people tell me I look like that dude who has the podcast. Tall guy, he's got like the same beard as me. He's not a competitor.
Sam says you look like a mini meatball.
I love meatballs. Fuck is his name? He's got like a super famous podcast out in LA. You guys definitely know who it is. I'm gonna find it.
all right, you do that. Next question. Let's see here. How do you feel about oral PEDs? I know Justin will like this one.
So Miguel.
Am I leading this?
Yo, Miguel.
I think you should.
All right, listen. Listen. No, but listen, like to keep it real, I feel like when it comes to orals, there's like there's mild, and then there's like heavy. I don't really think there's like a middle ground. You know what I mean? Like I consider like my VARs, my Winnies, my Provirans, and like a mild, and then you get to your more extreme stuff. I think it all has its place. I think that the only oral that no one should take is D-ball. I think D-ball is trash.
I used to love D-ball.
I think that it's just outdated and bleh,
You guys ever taken T-ball?
Yeah, T-ball is great. T-ball is great.
I've never taken it.
That's a good first cycle, or like a not first cycle maybe, but maybe like early cycles for someone, like maybe like a test primo T-ball off season, like that would be a good combination for someone in my opinion. But I mean Anadrol is, it's king. We're super is fun too.
Right. I think there's a lot nowadays that people talk about as far as like, they never do orals. And I think everything, can have its time and its place.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because to say that nobody uses orals, like, come on, pre-show, I think everybody here has either recommended or used orals in that kind of a setting. So there's definitely a time and a place for everything. But I also think it's one of those things where, what does the blood work say? What's this person's experience? Where's the person at as far as their ability to be able to put on size easily? Like maybe at the end of a blast, we throw something in there to really round things out and to help somebody get past the sticking point for a little while. I think, again, there could be a time and a place for everything, but at the end of the day, I think you just have to be careful with orals. I think that's the one thing that we've seen here that caused a lot of backlash against orals is because people were using them either exclusively or using them too often or using them in ways where it's like, you're really not going to put on much tissue in the short run that you're going to get from an oral steroid. You're just not. So if you're talking about orals like individually or being a primary drug that you're using, probably not the smartest way to go about things. But like Justin said, there's a lot of experience to be gained there too, as far as a secondary androgen early on in the process.
And real quickly, while it's fresh in my head, before the other two gents chime in, we the four of us understand that Clen and T3, T4 diuretics are not considered oral steroids, technically speaking, but they are, and they're all, not the best. Diuretics can kill you very quickly if you fuck with them the wrong way. Clen T3 can have their scarring impacts in your heart. Like it just listen, man, I think Steve is the one who phrased it best to me a few years back. This is chemical warfare. You know what I mean? Like anything we do is chemical warfare, so just got to be careful with anything and everything that would be considered a performance enhancer.
Yeah, that's a good point. And if you're gonna use PEDs in general, obviously, but orals being the highest risk, at least from like a short-term perspective, definitely make sure you have the proper guidance. Like, don't fucking touch anything, period, if you're not getting your blood work done, right? And also from my perspective, I think, there's a very important role that orals play pre-contest. But if you're somebody who's just getting into it and thinking about doing a show and you're already enhanced, right? I don't think you necessarily need to use orals, right? There's no problem in doing a show without using like crazy compounds. And the last thing that I'll say on the topic is like be aware of how things affect you mentally. Because the orals, at least from my personal experience, are gonna have the biggest impact mentally over any injectable that you have. So we mentioned some compounds that are pretty harsh, like Superdrol, like Anadrol, like Halotestin. Like these are ones that severely like impact your mental state or can severely impact your mental state. So just be very cautious if you're dabbling with these for the first time.
Yeah.
You got anything you want to add to that, Steve? Because I have a bit that I've added.
No, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of orals at all. Like just for personal use. I mean, in prep, I get it, like the Provirans, the like Winnies, things like that. But I mean, Anadrol, Anavar, all that. I just don't personally go near them. Blood
I'm not trying to
pressure,
party.
they kill your appetite. They'll make you feel good. You know what I mean? I also too, I also feel like in the last couple of years, I've, come into properly training much better than I was when I was younger and things like that. So like the Anadrol, what's it gonna do? Put 50 pounds on my hack squat in a week, or just an example. Like I don't need that. You know what I mean? I'd rather just play it smarter and train smarter. You know what I mean? And even we can all up the intensity, right? Like just do that versus having to dabble with any orals at this point. I mean, I've taken them all, right, at one point, but just never was a fan. Now with clients, of course, if sometimes I'll try a very low dose of Anadrol. Some people it's a hit, some people it just doesn't fare well, right? Prep, obviously, like I just said, the AIs are very, very prominent. Winstrol, all that, but I found too, not many people like handle Winstrol very well, just because if you get in true shape, that's gonna just make everything hurt even more, So, but there's a time and place, I feel, for everything.
Yeah, like I said, for me, if I'm playing devil's advocate, I think there's a time and place. I think it can be valuable in given certain circumstances. But the one thing I would say against orals is, and I think this is something where people if we're going against the idea of adding in orals, I think when we're looking at PEDs and we're looking at a growth phase, let's say, right, we're in the off season, we're trying to put on as much size as we can. The reality behind that is, what are we blocking off there? You know what I mean? In some cases, 24 weeks at the long end of things. The reality is the biggest issue that you're going to run into there is having to stop short because you have too many side effects, right? Blood pressure is climbing too far, whatever it might be. The side effects are starting to pile up, and whether it's mental health that we talked about, all that different stuff, and now we have to pull back. And the unfortunate thing about pulling back is we need time to grow. So realistically, what you'd want are the things that are going to give you the least amount of side effects for the longest time possible to try to put on as much tissue possible. And sometimes when you're throwing an oral in there at the beginning, like we used to do back in the day, was you would front load a cycle with orals. That's the way that I was taught, right? But the problem with that is, again, now you're accumulating too many of these side effects early on. And instead of being on a 24-week push, you're on a 16-week push now because of it. So that's one thing that I would say be careful with. Like I said, for me, if they're used, it's throwing it in later on.
If not less than 16 weeks.
Yeah, if not less. Yeah.
Did we address Umar's question?
Yeah, Umar asked a good question. He said, do we think blood levels are enough to test how much damage has been done by PEDs? And I mean, absolutely not. I don't think so at all.
There's more. There's more.
100, yeah, all the scans, calcium scores,
the
sonograms, yeah, 100. I think that they're more important, honestly, because the blood work's only giving us a snapshot of that moment, right? Like, I've seen some people that are like, yeah, I didn't get my bloods fasted. And I'm like, well, I definitely told you a few times, make sure, like, just drink water, but empty, like completely empty stomach, like in terms of food, and the triglycerides are through the roof. And I'm like, okay, well, we need these rechecked. And then they get it again, no food in the stomach. They're just, hydrated, and their triglycerides are perfect. So I tell people, like, that's just a snapshot, but it's a good question by Umar. I think scans and calcium scores, the sonograms, it's,
definitely get your heart checked.
Echocardiograms, things like that. EKGs are so important.
Yeah, definitely, especially if you're someone who's been using PEDs for a longer period of time. Definitely get your heart checked for sure.
Yeah, last year I got. I'm sorry, Tim. Last year I got ectocardiogram. I got the scans. I got one of like my kidney, my liver, my gallbladder, all that. And everything was good, thank God. So, but honestly, like that's the first time I've ever gotten everything like that done since I've been using PEDs. I mean, I've gotten ectocardiogram and EKGs and stuff done. Ectocardiogram, I think I've gotten like 4 or 5 of them. But last year I got everything done: liver, kidney, my heart, everything. So.
I think if we're worried about 2 things most consistently when it comes to PED usage and bodybuilding, it's going to be kidney function and it's going to be heart health. And those are the 2 things that you can go above and beyond the blood work for. You should go above and beyond the blood work for, to be able to see where you're at, especially with years of usage under your belt.
So this kind of ties into this question I got. If you don't mind, I'll read it.
You're fucking up again, Steve.
My Wi-Fi's full
Disconnect
blast.
from your Wi-Fi,
You good?
maybe.
You're like in and out.
Can you hear me? We good?
Not
We
really.
can hear you, but you're just really shaky.
Anything good?
You're all pixelated on the screen and shit.
Oh,
Better now.
Okay. This guy said, I just hired my first coach 6 months ago. He has a laundry list of, in quotes, health supplements for me to take. Are these really necessary?
It's probably one of my clients.
No, I don't think so.
No, I'm just flexible.
I don't think so.
Well, it's hard to say. We need to see what the list is, but generally speaking, if this coach has a solid list of health supplements on there, they're in there for a reason, right? Whether you're natural or enhanced, like there's a purpose for health supplements. So yes, but I would also challenge you. Go ask your coach, like ask him to help educate you. Like, what are some of these for, right? I mean, if he's got 100 on there, don't expect him to go down the list every single one, but maybe they'll call out some of the more important ones. So at least you're getting a sense of like, oh, okay, he's not just telling me to take the shit because he wants me to buy the shit and use his code or something. You know what I mean? So use the time to also educate yourself, right? Go Google what some of the shit is, right?
Yeah, I think that's a good call. I think at the end of the day, the one thing I hate seeing is when you're getting nickeled and dimed to death. And I don't know how you guys do it. So if I'm talking shit about something that you guys are doing, stop me. But like I hate seeing like whatever. It's like 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C, and then like whatever curcumin and this and that, and all these like little individual things. There's literally 16 supplements there. It's like you could probably wrap that all into one of the fucking 15,000 supplements we have available to us right now that are all for like organ health. You know what I mean? It's like we could take care of all this with this one supplement here. You know what I mean? And just rock with that. And it's going to save that person a lot of money. It's going to save that person a lot of time, a lot of thought process. And it's just like, hey, take this for overall organ health, right? And it probably has a list of all that stuff. Because I do use curcumin with most supplements, but it's with most clients, but it's in, the supplement we use is Prime most commonly for Morphogen Nutrition. It's again, well-rounded in terms of support there. And instead of adding like, fucking beetroot and fucking astragalus and all these different things for kidney, just take a kidney fucking supplement. You know what I mean? And like, we could probably get most of those things taken care of within like 2 or 3 supplements, as opposed to having a list of 16 different supplements. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, it's one of those things where I don't think any of us would argue, what the fuck is going on?
Dude, you always have these animations and you're so oblivious to them. You're always going on
Fireworks.
Those things. Oh,
Every
yeah,
time,
every time.
It was like
I get them a lot. I'm a man of the people, Justin. I'm a man of the people. But I don't think any of us would argue with the reality that like if you're going to do drugs, you got to buy the health supplements. Buy the health supplements first, then you can take the drugs. If you don't have the budget for both, don't do it.
Yep.
So
Steve, you gotta chime in.
someone said turn your my Wi-Fi is not on.
Turn your Wi-Fi off on the phone, maybe.
He turned his phone off just now.
No, my Wi-Fi is not on. I just scrolled it.
It's been fine now. It's been fine.
You're good. You're good.
Yeah, it's been fine. It's a little slow, but it's much better than what it was doing before. Like you're pretty clear.
Yeah.
I feel like, in regards to the health sub game, it just like everything, it's really like person dependent. Like I'm thankful that I'm, sponsored and partnered with Apollon, which is a phenomenal brand. We have a lot of like, subs that have a lot in one, kind of like, Tim was saying. I have like 3 like set staple like products that have a bunch of stuff in there that I like to see clients on. One of them is, they're all from Apollon. It's our fish oil product, it's our multi product, and then it's our resistance product. But like to give people an example, and this is not a fucking sales pitch for Apollon, by the way, but like our resistance product has 5,000 units of vitamin D in it, 1,000 of vitamin C, 50 mgs of zinc, selenium at 200 micrograms, copper at 3, elderberry at 1,000, quercetin, NAC at 600 mgs, beta 1,3, echinacea. Like it's loaded, right? So kind of what Tim was saying, there's some really good products out there where like they could get 3 products. Yeah, they might spend a little bit of money, and that's just maybe like a base for like natural people, in addition to whatever else might they need. If they need like a high dose of magnesium, or like their stress is high, they need ashwagandha, like whatever it is. But Tim, like whoever asked the question, like I do see coaches prescribe a laundry list of products that I personally, as a fellow coach, might not think is necessary. I'd need to hear the specifics as to why for that client. And obviously when someone's enhanced, it's a different story. You're getting, more in depth with supplementation for heart health, for kidney health, for liver health, the antioxidant fighting. So, that's my little 2 cents
So,
in regards to, health
I'll
subs.
say this, like, obviously the health supplements that you're taking, right? If you're enhanced, you're gonna have obviously like a handful of stuff more. I think we can all agree on that, right? I think if you're not enhanced, right? I think like the only thing I would really throw in there that I personally do is like an NAC, just for some like liver support. So I don't know if you guys do that or not, but that's typically like the only thing I would do where like if they're not enhanced, right? That would be like an added thing. And then there's just normal vitamins and things like that, curcumins, CoQ10s, fish oils, like B complex, that type of stuff. But obviously, if you're enhanced, the list is going to be a fair amount more. But like to Tim's point, right, there are things out there now that have like 5 or 6 things in one. Like I know Jeff Long's thing, the Complete Health, like that has like 5 or 6. Like I was telling Matt about that. That has like 5 or 6 things in there that literally just eliminate like you spending $200 extra like a month on health. Like if you're enhanced, So I've been putting that in some clients' plans too, depending. If I feel it's going to save them some money. So
What do you got, Matt? You got want to throw one out there?
Yeah. What are your opinions on intensifiers, like putting them in your programming?
I think it makes sense. I think Justin touched on this earlier. First, you got to learn how to train hard. You know what I mean? Like bottom line, like at the end of the day, like you don't belong doing a drop set if you can't take a set to failure first. That's to me, intensifiers in 90% of the time are going to come back to extending your set, right? And if you're extending the set, that first set needs to be taken to a point where you've reached completion. You failed. You know what I mean? And at the end of the day, then if maybe it's more applicable to do a drop set at that point. Maybe it's more applicable to do a rest pause at that point. And those are the two that really jump out at me as far as an intensifier. I don't know, what else somebody wants to come up with there. But again, I think the intensifiers have to be earned as part of the maturation of the athlete and their necessity at a certain point for people in terms of trying to get more out of the same training plan. But again, to me, I'm a big fan of just making sure that we're training hard first and foremost.
yeah,
I agree. Like breaking it down, like for those that don't know what intensifiers are, so like Tim mentioned, things like drop sets, rest pause sets, force negatives, partials, using bands, shit like this, right? I agree with what you said, Tim. Like learn how to train extremely hard with perfect form before you start adding in intensifiers. Like you can't even count how many times you'll see some like fucking kid in the gym who doesn't know how to train, who's doing a drop set with 15 sets of dumbbells in front of him, or the kid that's doing partials because he sees Sam Sulek doing them. Like, and these are kids that can barely bench, fucking 200 pounds for reps, right? It's like learn how to execute properly with like purpose, right? Actually using the muscle group that you're training to move the weight, not just moving the weight before you worry about adding any type of intensifier.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I just preach like the clients, like I need form check videos. If I'm asking you for a handful of these videos, they're gonna help. Like, don't ask me to change your training if we don't even know if you're doing things right, like I feel like you repeat that so much, right? There's no such thing as shocking the muscle, changing your training and giving you new workouts every week or month. It's not gonna do anything if you don't have proper mechanics and you're not training intense, right? Like I feel like every single day I'm at least repeating it to somebody, right? Proper depth on this. Your back training. It's not arm training, it's back training, things like that. So I agree with you guys. Before you're gonna start doing drop sets and rest pause sets and supersets, just get the form down and learn how to work out and actually train. So
I think the the only intensifier that I tend to utilize myself and have people do would be stuff for arms, to be honest with you, or stuff for delts, like something that's kind of like shorter, quicker, like get in there, get real pumped, like for supersetting bicep and tricep, or like a rear delt with the side delt. If I'm being brutally honest with you guys, I have not done one intensifier probably in 3 years, and I've gotten the biggest that I ever have. I think that it's just locking into a set and form. And like when you go into a set, like even if it's just one set, but you're like, okay, I'm gonna do a rest pause here that turns into a drop set, and then I'm gonna get up and go do this. It's too much. Like I would rather you like, throw however much you could handle on the bar and get it with pitch perfect form and continue to progress that way. Like what Tim said, like the whole shocking the muscle or whatever. I think that's horseshit. It's what's going to shock the muscle is getting under 500 pounds and going ass to grass and repeating it the next week and then repeating it the next week. And then eventually you'll get stronger and better. I don't, like I said, I haven't really grown much off of when I was doing intensifiers. I wasn't that big. Because I wasn't maximally like putting in effort. I feel like maybe because
initial set, you're saying? Like, so in other words, because this is my thing, right? Are you saying like, so you're going into a set and in your mind, you're like, oh, I know I got to do this fucking triple drop set. So that first set, instead of it being fucking 12 reps that you could have got, maybe you give off at like 9 reps because you have those other two.
No, not necessarily. If that's just like if it's one drop set I'm doing, right, where it's 3 sets in one, I'll be able to like go balls deep for that. But if you have in a client's program, you're gonna finish up with leg extensions. You're gonna do 3 sets of 3 drop sets per set. You can't do it. You literally cannot do it. You can't do it, right? Like, and I think, like I said, I'm the strongest off of saying, okay, last week I did 315 for 7 on incline barbell. I'm gonna get 8 today, or I'm gonna die trying. And then just whether you do or don't, the struggle and you continuously doing it week after week, eventually you're going to get it for that 8th rep. Or you throw on 5 pounds aside and you try to match it for 7 again. Like I said, for me personally, I have grown more off of like lower volume, not a lot of intensity stuff, or not a lot of intensifiers. Obviously training intense, but not a lot of intensifiers.
Yeah, I completely agree. I haven't done drop sets or anything like that in a few years either, Justin. I think the only intensifier I actually have started doing over the last year, or maybe 2 now, is on when I do incline Smith machine bench. I have like the reverse band for my shoulder. I'll do like my top set over rest pause, and that's simply just so I can take the set to failure a couple times, because I can't get to true failure because of my shoulder, because I just dies, like this, my bone spur shoulder fails before my pec. So what I'll do is like, I'll rack it, maybe I'll shoot for like 8 to 10, I'll rack it, take 15 deep breaths, go again, and repeat that another time. And that's probably the only intensifier I do with any exercise. And I just simply do that because of my shoulder issue. And that's it.
That's fair. Real quick, Tim, just to, I don't know if I mentioned that when I was saying like the only thing I'll really do is supersets. I have done some RPs, not much of them, like you're saying, like something that I did do them for occasionally would be like seated hamstring curls. Like my back off set, I might do a rest pause with like a higher rep set anyway, just to extend it and get even more reps. But it was one set here and there. I wouldn't attribute that to my hamstring development. You know what I mean?
I just want to say, I do program the drop set and the back off sets, but exactly like Justin was saying, Dan is actually on this podcast right now, and he knows, it's one of those things where I do reserve it for specific individuals that I know can handle it, so to speak, right? But the reality is we'll start off with executing, a training plan, if not, and again, in Dan's case, for fucking, whatever it is, a year straight, where he's, nailing all those basics, showing that he basically has earned the right now to move up, and he's in a growth phase, right? And naturally, what we did in that growth phase is we started his training plan at X. The volume was all the same. Everything was the same, right? And then as we started to push things up and his strength started to accumulate and food started to accumulate and his ability to push a little bit further started to trend up, now it's like, okay, I'll go in and adjust his plan and say, listen, you got 3 sets here. On your last set, I want you to do 1 drop set to absolute failure after taking your first set to failure. You know what I mean? Or it might be after this working set, you only have 2 sets here, a working set and a back off set. And after the working set, I want you to do a rest pause, et cetera, right? And I'll add those things in as I continue to add in food, or as we add in drugs. When the performance is going up, now we might be able to accumulate a little bit more of this added volume through these intensifiers. But again, it's very set in the sense that I don't want my clients going into a set thinking like, oh, I have to do this back off, so now I'm going to, let off a little. We've already established what his working weights are. We already established what his progressions are week to week. So now it's like we're adding in a top set already. I'm sorry, we're adding in an intensifier onto a top set that's already got an established weight that he's working on. So now his incline bench, let's say it's 315, right? That doesn't go down now because you're adding an intensifier. You're still shooting for that 8th rep in the scenario that Justin, talked about. But again, maybe we have a rest pause on top of that on that last on that top set. Does that make sense?
Of course.
Yeah.
Imagine doing a rest pause set on hack squats. Fuck that. Matt, that's what we're putting.
Cardio, basically.
That's what we're putting in your training, all prep. No cardio.
Yeah.
Rest pause sets on
Hey,
leg press and hack squats.
Tim, you accepting any clients in about a year?
Yeah, buddy.
Prep?
I can't wait. We're gonna post every day and tag Steve. All right.
Tim, what do you got?
So I think Bernard's on. This is one of Bernard's questions. Can you fix ghrelin, the ghrelin hormone after a poor night's sleep? So ghrelin is your hunger hormone, and we see that hunger hormone go up after a shitty night's sleep, where he's dealing with a whole bunch of hunger and different shit. Well, not different shit, hunger specifically the day after a poor night's sleep. We're also talking about somebody that's a cop that works overnight sometimes, so he's dealing with that. But
So he wants to lower his appetite. You're asking?
Yeah, essentially.
Or increase it.
Lower it.
Or
I don't think about ghrelin manipulation, to be honest.
I have more of a mental cue that he could try to apply.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say this is going to impact a hormone itself, but it's going to definitely make you feel full. He sounds like, and I don't know this individual, by the way, you said he's a cop.
Yeah, he's a cop. Right now, he's 235, and he's a couple weeks into his mini
Well,
cut.
thank you for your service as being a police officer, number one. Number two, I think I think that he's probably not drinking enough water.
I was just about to say that.
So he should get up and chug water. Chug it. That should be the first thing he's doing anyway, right? So get up and start chugging some water. Listen, when I chug water and like a good bit, I don't want to eat, so it might be a temporary thing, but he's probably not drinking enough water anyway. And if he's a cop, he's moving and grooving a lot, he could probably afford a higher water intake to help with that,
Yeah, 100%. Anything else you want to add on that, Steve?
I was gonna say definitely the water thing. Also too, like it depends where what phase you're in, right? But there are some over the counter fat burners and stuff that will help that too, like Yohimbine and things like that. But obviously, you're trying to get him to grow, might not have.
Well, no, he's in a mini cut right now. We just pulled him back. We're trying to clean up a little bit for the next push up. But yeah, I mean, listen, there's all those different things. The problem with him is he's also, because of the overnight job, we just did a Dutch test to get a 24-hour cortisol reading. So it's one of those things where right now adding in the caffeine and shit like that probably is going to be the best bet for him as far as appetite suppressions. I would just say Bernard, he just chimed in here too. I'm pretty sure we competed at my first show a very long time ago. I don't know what that, I guess that was, I don't know who he's talking to there. But I would say just load up on Ozempic. Take 1,000 milligrams. I don't know how many milligrams of Ozempic you're supposed to take, but take a gram of that. You won't eat anything for a week. But in all seriousness, I really think that's something where you're not going to modulate ghrelin within that short of a time frame. You know what I mean? Realistically, that's just not going to be something that we're going to be able to accomplish. And it's going to be one of those ones where you just got to suck up and get it done. You know what I mean? Until we figure out what's going on with your cortisol level, it's just going to be something we got to suck up and get it done, which I know you're already doing and good at. 12 pounds down in 2-3 weeks or something like that is mini cuts.
Yeah.
Being hungry just means it's working, dude. That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
Embrace it.
That's your body telling you it's losing fat.
I'd much rather be hungry than stuff. 100%.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. Well, he's actually a freak. He's the one guy in recent memory where, he's eating whatever it is, fucking on average, whatever, 650, 700 plus grams of carbs a day, right? And he's still fucking complaining about how hungry he is. So he's a fucking freak when it comes to that shit.
Speaking of dieting, could I selfishly do a question that was addressed to me?
Yeah, go for it.
So somebody, I don't know who it is, it was on the private link thing, the NGL thing, but they asked, so they saw that my wife's competing, she's 15 weeks out, and they asked what her macros are currently. So I have her program in front of me actually. So training days, 4 days a week. So she's at about 1,650 calories. Got 160 protein, 155 carb, 42 fat. She has one refeed a week on her leg day, one leg day, 140 protein, 305 carb, 60 fat. And her non-training days are 160 protein, 90 carb, 50 fat. And this is a 5'9" woman who is 147 pounds, who's 15 and a half weeks out of her first show. So she's eating like a pretty decent amount of food. I actually had to increase her refeed last week. So the benefit of having my client live with me is I can get her morning weight and her night weight every single day. So for the first time this past refeed, she only gained like 0.6. This is a week ago. Mind you, she's been dieting for 4.5 weeks. So I was like, okay, like that's really good. And she had a really good week in terms of weight loss. Her look looked much better. So this past week I increased her refeed pretty significantly. And she did not gain a single anything. She was the same exact way she was the previous day from her last refeed. So she's cranking. I'm probably gonna end up increasing her base day food as well. But yeah, this is just like a cool example of like having data and being able to use that to make informed decisions with a client. All
Nice.
right, next question.
You got another, Steve?
What is a feasible weekly weight loss goal?
Half a pound.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Half a pound. I mean, I explain to some clients too who are like so hyper focused on that number on the scale. I'm like, listen, you just dropped 0.6 pounds this week. Like, that's pretty good, right? Like, you see the trend down, and I'm like, that's pretty good. That's healthy. That's sustainable. If you're losing 2, 3, 4 pounds a week, eventually, one, that's going to stop, and two, that's not body fat. You're not dropping 4 pounds of body fat a week. I explain to people. So, half pound, a pound, it's pretty good, I would say.
Unless you're taking 1,000 milligrams of Ozempic and DP, and then fucking the world's limit,
Also,
baby.
too,
Sky's the
though,
limit.
I mean, I think a lot of people too need to realize like the difference between weight loss and fat loss, right? Like, how many clients have we all seen where it's like their weight's within like 2, 3 pounds, maybe 5, right? Max, whatever the case is. But they look like they lost 20 pounds, but their composition is noticeably different, and it's because you losing, fat loss and weight loss are two completely separate, things, right? So
I usually try to tell clients, let's look at where the low point is. So we'll track like your low weights, right? And we'll track your average weekly weight. So not like a daily thing. We're looking at the average weekly weight and your low points. Body weight fluctuates. That's just the reality of it. It's going to go up. It's going to come back down. It's going to go up. It's going to come back down. And all we're trying to do is plot those trends and making sure that when it does come back up, that high number, it consistently gets lower and lower and lower through those fluctuations over time, if that makes sense. So again, I'm only looking at what the low weight is every week and then what the average weight is, what the average weight is per week. And as long as we're within that realm of being 0.5 pounds, and listen, sometimes you don't lose shit. That's just the reality of it. You're going to have plenty of weeks during prep or plenty of weeks during a diet where you don't lose a fucking ounce, right? And that's just the name of the game. But long term, when you add up all the weight that you lost over your 15-week diet, 20-week diet, 25 plus, whatever it is, the bottom line is it should average out to somewhere around that half a pound per week, right? As an acceptable rate of loss so that we're not cutting into too much tissue.
Yeah, I agree, right? The tool, the scale of this one tool in the arsenal, body composition has a whole lot to do with it. And also, like, know if you're hiring like a reputable coach that knows what they're doing, aka anybody on here in Marina, let them worry about it, right? Like, they're going to be the ones analyzing your look against your weight, against whatever other variables are in your program. And like, if they're not concerned that you're not heading in the right direction, then you shouldn't be concerned, right? Have faith in your coach.
The program you should be following.
Should be.
Yeah.
That's really important.
Yeah.
I listen, we all have clients, and like if anyone's watching this and you get offended by this, it probably applies to you. So listen closely. I mean that with all due respect. Sorry, that's aggressive. Stop making it difficult for your coaches to figure out what the hell's going on with your body. You know what I mean? Like, it's really not that hard. You came to us for a reason. You're paying your fine-earned money that you work hard for, right? For us to get you to a goal. And just because you're paying doesn't mean you could do what you want. You know what I mean? Like you need to follow what we say to understand what's going on. Like I I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I had a client recently whose calories, let's say, weren't the highest, but this person had put on a lot of, unwanted body fat and wants to go into a diet phase. And I'm like, if you just followed what I had written for you, you would not have the unwanted body fat, and you would have a lot more, muscle definition, muscle size, reduced body fat. What the heck happened?
What the
Justin.
fuck just happened?
Justin timed out.
Froze? That's
Why
weird.
did I get cut out?
Oh,
You
That's
see a
weird. It really
loading?
froze on IG. He's not frozen on the Zoom. That's weird.
No.
yes, Instagram broke. It sucks. All right. Well, while he's reconnecting, do you guys have anything else to add to this point?
Yeah, I would wait. What? Oh no, I'm sorry, I don't. There's a question in the chat that I want to get to here for this kid.
My chat breaks
you guys
every
cool
time. I
moving
don't see
on?
anything. This is annoying.
I know it happens sometimes to me too. It happened last week to me. Oh, there you go. Justin's
I
back.
don't even. It
So
closed out the app. Well, I don't know why. Like, the app closed.
So moving on to the next question though, but Justin, you did make a good point there. I don't want to move on too quick because we were just kind of waiting for you, but Justin makes a good point. You know what I mean? Adjustments and shit like that to help with that weight going lower
Bless
needs
you.
to be based off the plan that we have set in place. Otherwise, we're not making real adjustments. We're just fucking making adjustments to a piece of paper that we have. God knows what the fuck you're doing.
If there's
Um,
1,500
but-
calories on the piece of paper and you're eating more, don't tell people you're only eating 1,500 calories. You're not.
Yeah,
You're having
yeah.
2,500.
And don't
Yeah.
tell us. And don't tell us that you're 100% the plan, because then when you lower your food even more, it doesn't fucking
Correct.
make a difference. You know what I mean? And to your point, if you just stuck to the plan, in most cases, you wouldn't feel less confident. You wouldn't feel uncomfortable. You wouldn't feel too heavy because you're sticking
And
to
over
a fucking
time,
plan.
you'd be able to eat more. And
Exactly.
look
That's a good call
better,
too. Yeah, 100%. So this guy asked, our thoughts on cycle of MK677 and ipamorelin.
I don't know enough about them, to be honest. I don't really use
What's
them.
ipamorelin?
Yeah, what the
It's like
Hold on, wait,
it's
real
like-
quickly.
It's like CJC. It's like a growth hormone peptide.
Listen.
Basically increases your natural pulse of
Listen,
growth
brother.
hormone.
Just fucking put
Take
some
steroids.
test and trend in you. Yeah. It's-
there's the answer.
But no, but really, man, like, a lot of people nowadays, like, people get so fascinated in these like peptides and these like I'll call out a company that, like, I hear a lot of people speak highly of that I don't use. What's that? Amino Asylum. People are talking about like their blend. No, I don't know. I don't know much about them, right? But I know a lot of, because I know a lot of people that I respect talk about it too. So let me preface by saying that, right? However, like, I think too many people, like, I know a lot of people that were like taking like the pump stuff there, like the this from there, yada yada. And I'm like looking at them, I'm like, all due respect, like, looks like you don't even really work out. Like, what are you doing? Like it's I just feel like people like the average population thinks like steroids are like worst end all be all, and then like SARMs, pro hormones, peptides, they all get grouped here, and some of that shit is like worse for you. It's just like take the real shit, monitor your blood work, like what he said, MK677. What's the other thing, Tim? What is it?
Ipamorelin. I might be pronouncing that wrong.
Do you know what it does?
Ipamorelin is the closer we're getting.
It increases
It's
your
a growth
natural
hormone. Pulse
Just
of
go take growth
hormone,
hormone. Go buy a kid of GH.
Yeah. I think the biggest issue for some people is sourceability. You know what I mean? And being able to source it, be able to get their hands on, or the legality of it in some cases. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I said before, I think everything can have its place. I don't think ipamorelin is necessarily useless. I don't think MK677 is necessarily useless. I just think that if you have the ability to be able to use growth hormone, let's put it this way: ipamorelin and There's no combination of drugs there or peptides there that's ever going to equal the output of growth hormone. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Even growth hormone at its lowest dosage versus dosing at their highest dosage, it's just not going to be the same outcomes. It's not. Right. So it's like, if you're asking me what my real thoughts are on MK67 plus IPAM, it sounds like a fucking water weight and fucking, I'm going to binge my face off because I'm so fucking hungry from this, ghrelin antagonist in the IPAM Morellin, right? IPAM is going to make you hungrier. MK67 is going to make you hungrier. You're going to have more propensity to cheat on your diet. MK677 by itself is going to make you put on a lot of water weight. So you have to be careful. You have to understand these things. But at the end of the day, if it's your only option, I would say you'd probably get better results off of IPAM and MK677 than you would off of, whatever, creatine monohydrate from Vitamin Shop. Right. But again, all this is with the understanding that you already have the bases lined up. You're already training hard. You already got your nutrition in place. You have years of experience, right? And you're looking to take something to another notch. I think there could be benefits there. But again, you have to understand, like, what am I trying to do and what is the outcome of these supplements? Because it's not just, hey, they're a drug that makes me build muscle, especially in this case. These things aren't going to make you build substantial amounts of muscle. So the reality is, what are we trying to get done here?
Yep. Do you see that question that just popped up?
Do I
I don't know
see
where
them
you
only, or do
find
you
that.
guys see them? Because I just had questions that like came in. too,
Question
and I don't
mark
know
on the
how
bottom right, Tim.
Oh, so there you go, Justin. Question mark on the bottom right.
So
Are we-
he
Wait,
does
hold on,
this-
wait.
Oh,
Did-
wait.
When I climax, there's
That's
blood
what I'm
in it.
looking
Is
at.
there,
Yeah.
is there a steroid that
Geo
help
sent that, bro.
Yeah, Anadrol, dude.
Anadrol.
That's an Anadrol one for sure, dude. Anadrol will fix that up
Geo
immediately.
sent that.
God, what
This
the
Art
fuck?
of War question was: I'm finally turning 24 this year, looking into starting my first cycle for my first show. Also, D-ball test cycle for a 6-month bulk. So first thing I say is definitely don't take D-ball for 6 months.
Yeah.
You already established that.
Let's get rid of the word bulking as well, because you might need more than 6 months of growing to be ready. You know what I mean? To be competitive. So I think that's something that you and your coach,
D-ball.
if you have one, obviously you want to have a structured plan. So that's something that you and your coach would obviously have to have in place. And then with the test dose too, I would say get your blood work right. That's first. If your test is already through the roof because you're 24, everybody's common thing is 500 milligrams of test, right? We've all heard that. You might not need that. That might be way too much. You might suffice on 200 because your test might be over 1,000 already naturally.
My first cycle with you, Steve, was 300 tests and 25 milligrams of Anavar, and I gained 30 pounds.
Dan's still in this chat. He's put on 50 pounds since you show. He's still on 300 milligrams of test.
Let's call out something as well that he mentioned here. He said first cycle. I would probably not be doing a cycle for 6 months long for my first cycle.
No,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, seriously.
I was getting there, but
maybe 3 months, and I think we'd all say a first cycle for one would just be test. I mean, but listen, let's keep it real. Test partners well with some stuff. So if you want to do test and primo or EQ and get the benefit out of some other injectables, you don't have to take an oral for your first cycle, which I know we spoke on orals a bit ago. I agree with that. Maybe not an oral for your first cycle, maybe an AI if you start to react poorly and you need to take an AI, right, to limit some of the side effects. But if you need an AI, you're probably taking a little bit too much test for your first cycle. I would have a tough time believing that 300 mgs is going to give you some titties, and any negative repercussion from it. So maybe a 3-month cycle of, test and another injectable would be your go-to, and then get some lab work done. I wouldn't be doing 6 months for your first cycle, especially with D-ball. You probably hopped into the live after he said that none of us like D-ball. It's probably my most hated compound. It's just bro, take some super draw. You know what I'm saying? Don't take D-ball.
I used to love D-ball when I first started. D-ball was one of those ones where it was you'll get strong as hell off it and you feel great. It put you in the best mindset. And all it did for me was make me strong temporarily and give me massive titties that I used to walk around with. And that was about it. You ever see a skinny guy with titties? It's not fun.
Yeah.
So Steve, you had mentioned coach. I don't know this dude, but if you do have a coach and he's talking to you about a potential 6-month cycle of testing D-ball, fire that coach like
Yeah,
that.
get a new one.
Yeah.
What else we got?
Speaking of these things, related question: what was your guys' first cycle?
We've talked about this a few times, right? I think the one thing I have the first injectable cycle I ever did was acupoise and test. And I told you guys about that one. Later on, though, we were doing a podcast with Riley and Marina. And I remember the first thing I ever did was D-ball. It was D-ball. And I remember I bought it from some really fat guy in the gym, right? Yeah, he was super fat. And
Fat
he
from
gave
the
it to me in a
D-ball.
fucking Tic Tac
The
box.
Tic Tac box?
Yeah, he gave me he had a Tic Tac container, a whole bunch of white pills. I had no
Probably
fucking
wasn't
clue
even
what they
D-ball.
were. No clue. But his yeah, it probably wasn't. But his whole thing was, yeah, see, he knows the D-ball, a Tic Tac container. His thing was like, you take one for the first week, then for week 2 you take 2 a day, then for week 3 you take 3 a day, and then you taper back down 2, 3. It was literally the biggest waste of time I've ever spent on drugs, and probably one of the more regrettable things I've done.
My first cycle was test.
Don't lie. Don't lie.
No, I have nothing to lie about. It was test. I did a half CC Monday, a half CC Thursday. I did that for 8 weeks, and then he added in EQ at a CC Monday, 200 milligrams, and a CC on Thursday for another 8 weeks, and then I came off after 16 weeks total. And then the second cycle is when I tried 20 milligrams of D-ball, and I had no idea what the fuck to expect. I remember I went into the gym, and I could only do like 2 plates on the Smith. And I remember I did it for like 15, and I was like, what in the fuck is going on here? And I put a quarter on, and I did it for like 10, and I was like, this is not okay. But then my blood pressure shot up, my nose started bleeding, and I literally felt like nauseous smelling food. So I just got off.
I might have one.
So
It's funny. So my first cycle was in 2013. So like all the stupid shit was popular back then. So I was a victim of the 500 test, and I don't remember how much equipoise.
One second. I'll tell you mine in a second. Mine's fun.
Dude, I remember one time back in the day. So I haven't run equipoise. I'm not a big proponent of equipoise. I don't think the risk is worth the reward.
I hate
Not that it's like a super harsh drug. I just think there's far better compounds with less potential risks.
To me, that's the most harsh steroid I've ever taken.
From the anxiety perspective.
Oh my dude, it literally, when I took that last like 4 years ago, I felt like I was ready to actually kill myself after like
Really?
a
From
month.
equipoise?
Yeah, it was so bad, dude.
Wow.
I was horrible.
That's crazy.
And
How do you
I
prep
wasn't
right?
I wasn't depressed or any, no, that was just on EQ.
Yeah, I know. I'm saying, like, how do you prep with like Tren and all this shit, dude? If
Trend
EQ set you off like
doesn't
that.
do that to me. Trend
That's
doesn't give
crazy.
me anxiety. It just makes me not sleep and sweat like a pig. And then the only other steroid that brings my anxiety, well, not even steroid. The only other thing we would take in a prep, compound wise, that brings my anxiety up is anything that makes my heart race, like Clen or anything like that. So I don't take any of that shit. I don't take Yohimbine, Clen, none of that. I can't. Anything that makes my heart go like that, anxiety shoots through the roof. But EQ, dude, was the worst by far.
Dude, one time back in the day, I ordered EQ from a new source, and I didn't take it. I was smart enough, even though I was a fucking idiot, taking gear when I shouldn't have been. Dude, he must have suspended it in olive oil because it was green, like completely green. Crazy.
That's one where every time you piss, it smells really weird. You're like, it's not right here.
What was your first cycle, Justin? Definitely Adderall for sure.
Mine was a very interesting one. It was just Primo Bowl and T-ball. No test. Just Primo and T-ball. And
Well, you know what? I bet you $1 million you had some pretty solid gains.
I gained about 12 pounds. I didn't gain any fat. And I didn't have any suppressed levels after. I was on, I think, 50 mgs of T-ball for 8 weeks. And I think 200 or 300 mgs of Primo for 10 weeks. And that was it. That was it. Swear to God. No test. And then after that, that's when, I started to try some other things, but that was my very first cycle. And it was honestly a really good one. It was honestly like really good. I felt good off of it. Like it was good.
Wait, so Coleman said he got liver failure.
I think he's just fucking around.
Oh, he took Super Draw, 50 Super Draw daily.
It might have been like his
How
levels
long?
were so suppressed, like
3
temporary.
weeks. He said he was walking around with a piss jug.
Hold on. But why was your first cycle 50 mgs of super draw? 50
Why not,
mg,
Justin?
50 mg.
Why
Dude, I
not?
don't even take 50 of super. What? Come on.
Yeah, that's
now.
What do
pretty
you
crazy,
take,
man.
Justin? 10, 20?
I'm not completely serious. Yeah, well,
Oh, thank
partially
God.
serious. No, the most super I've ever taken is 20.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Yeah,
Matt,
I was
that's what
gonna
we
say
had you
fucking
do.
50 milligrams of super draw.
Oh,
You should feel your blood pressure and your cholesterol.
Yeah.
Like you should feel your organs fucking up on 50 mgs of
Yeah,
super
Yeah,
draw.
50
20 is the most I've ever
mgs
done, and I
Coleman
think
did.
I think 20s, 50. 20 is the most I've ever done, and I did it for 2 weeks, and that was it.
Yeah, that's all we did.
Yeah.
50 milligrams? What the fuck?
Yeah, dude, that's fucking
Of
stupid.
super, yeah.
Sorry, Coleman.
Especially when the base of your other, like your compounds were like 300 tests. You would think like someone who's prescribing 50 of super is
Yeah.
at about like 1,500 tests or
Yeah,
something, you know, like
exactly. Yeah.
50 Super Draw is the equivalent of taking like 800 Tren. It's just like so.
If I
Yeah.
took 50 milligrams of super draw, every time you would see me, you would know I'm on 50. Like I would be just red. I would be as red as this shirt is constantly.
Oh my God.
fuck.
You got any more?
I got plenty.
Yeah, I got a couple too.
All right, let's breeze through these.
Oh, go ahead, Matt. Go ahead. I spit out more.
Because I need to order Domino's. I'm fucking starving.
Shark down there.
Oh no, that was my last one. Sorry.
All right. Alone on show days with no coach. Any recommendations on being more prepared?
Make sure you have all your food, trunks, your number, your food scale, headphones, maybe music so you can just decompress and not stress. Make sure you have your bands to pump up, male or female. Backstage, make sure you know, if you're doing this on your own and you don't have a coach, right, or the coach isn't there, like ask them ahead of time, what will I need backstage? And make sure you have that in like a separate little bag. That's what I tell people all the time. Put your band, your number, your trunks in that little bag, you know, with like, say your coach says like rice cakes, nut butter, honey, whatever, a spoon, put it all in a little bag first. Have that, you know what I mean? And then make sure you know your food list and you have like that another bag. I always tell people.
What
Bring it with you.
what was the question?
And over make
The question
food.
was if you're alone on show day, as you don't, your coach isn't with you, any recommendations to be more prepared?
If it's only your coach not there,
Yeah, if you're
right?
all,
I'd say get a backstage pass for your closest family member or friend to be back there with you, to help with pumping up and to help just with hands-on stuff. I think that is very important. I think that could be very, very important. It eliminates stress. Just if you have someone back there that might not even know what they're doing, just as a hand to help, like be like, hey, your rice cakes are here. Hey, like, you know what I mean? Like when thankfully every show that I've done for as bit as I can remember, my coach was there. The one that he wasn't there, Crystal helped me with Martin Fitzwater. So I had someone in the industry who knew what he was doing to help me. And listen, like did they say they're early into their show career? Like they haven't competed much before at all in this, their coach isn't going to be there. Like, is there any, or just said like, if your coach isn't going to be there, what can you do to be like,
Yeah, that was it.
okay. I mean, I guess it depends, like if my coach wasn't there now, I'd feel more comfortable and confident. I've been doing this, so I know what I need. I know who I would need there. You know what I mean? Like I'd have my girlfriend backstage pumping me up, doing what we got to do to get ready. If it's your first show, then another bit of advice, and I know like again, this is more so directed at like people, but like if you know a friend or like an acquaintance who's doing the show, someone at your local gym, just even if it's like your opposing coach, like if I go to shows and I have clients who like they don't have their coach there, but I help pose them, I have the knowledge to help them backstage because their coach isn't there. And if they're not responding quick enough or whatnot, and like I have to call a shot for them, I have their best interest in mind. You know what I mean? So like, if your opposing coach is there, but not your regular coach, or like you have friends that are there, like rely on your ecosystem, as we would say, like your close surroundings,
Yeah, I think we usually send out a list beforehand to make sure that everybody's like well loaded and ready to go. That list is going to be pretty general for the most part, but there might be specifics per that particular client. I would say the few things that a lot of people forget: make sure you have like things like salt, for example. Like make sure you have salt separate from your food. Like don't salt your food, have it separate so that we can kind of be very particular about sodium on that particular day. Make sure you have, things to be able, like a shaker cup available, like a clean shaker cup available, ready to go. Make sure you have, clean sheets. Especially if you're staying in a hotel or Airbnb, you want clean sheets after you get tanned, so you're not making the fucking hotel's fucking sheets all dirty and tanned up. And then the other thing that I would say, and the big one for me, is like, don't slow the fuck down backstage. You do not need to get backstage and immediately start pumping up. The show days always run long. Rarely are you going to be in a position where you don't have enough time to pump up. Everybody thinks they need to get 30 minutes of pump up work in. That's not fucking true. You're not holding enough glycogen to be able to pump up for that long. You know what I mean? Like you're in there with a very specific amount loaded in. Yeah, you literally pump up while you're in line. Usually by the time they're pulling you in line, you still have a solid fucking 10, 15, sometimes 20 minutes until you're going to hit the stage. They are always ahead as far as that's concerned. Bring your bands, pump up backstage when they have you lined up and right before you go out. And that's all you need to worry about as it relates to pumping out and then pumping up. And then lastly, don't eat what your coach doesn't tell you to eat. You don't need Reese's cups. You don't need fucking gummy worms. You don't need honey or jam that people are, jamming down their throat immediately prior to the stage. You don't fucking need it unless your coach is telling you to have it.
I need gummy worms. That sounds.
Or unless you're a fat fuck
That
like
sounds
Steve.
fucking good. I'm not gonna lie. Sour gummy worms though.
Yeah, it got to be sour. Nobody does regular gummy worms.
No, you're a fucking psychopath if you do normal gummy worms. That's crazy.
You got anything to add to that one, Matt?
No, I think you guys covered it.
Sorry, go ahead.
Can we answer this dude's question? It says thoughts on running 8.
Yeah, for the ACG.
I don't really do it.
I don't see it. Listen, the ACG thing is weird. If you're planning on having a baby anytime soon, then yeah, maybe you want to run the ACG while on. If you're worried about your ball size for whatever reason, I don't know why. Then make sure that you're running some ACG while you're on. At the end of the day, if you're on drugs, your balls are probably going to shrink. If I fucking sneeze right now, one of my nuts are going to come out of my nose. Like it's just part of the process. It's going to happen. But at the end of the day, it's one of those where you got to have a very specific reason for running HCG while on. And for all intents and purposes, if somebody had that specific reason, that's where they'd probably come off of drugs and start to use HCG to get their luteinizing hormone back.
Ooh, Caroline came in with a good question. Are males or females easier to prep in your opinion?
I honestly think it's so individual. You know what I mean? It's so individual.
Yeah, women definitely have a lot more moving parts that we have to be careful of, but I think a good client is easy to coach regardless of their gender.
I think like I said, I don't think it's gender specific. I think it really just depends on who the individual is, because I do think that women can handle being pushed harder sooner.
I'm losing you, Steve.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I think so, yeah.
Maybe now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was saying, I think that you can push women harder sooner, so for a longer duration, without them, say, caving, cracking, bitching about it. You know what I mean? More cardio, less food, all that. I guess easier than men, or you know what I mean? But again, I just think it really depends on the individual. Because I've seen men and women post.
We're losing you again, dude.
I'm on the Zoom, fine. Can you hear me?
So, yeah, you're back now. So you've seen women handle it fine. What did you say about post show?
I said, again, post show is the same thing. Some men, and both men and women, it's some go off the freaking deep end and some don't. It just depends. It's not one or the other.
I would actually argue the opposite, though. For me, I find it much harder to push a female harder for longer, just based off of the responsiveness. You know what I mean? Like, we know women are built for two, essentially, right? They're built to be able to withstand, or survive based on their own individual needs and that reproductive system's needs. So it's like, for me, it's a lot more back and forth with women in terms of knowing how to push, when to push, and then when to pull back. I'm probably going to refeed females a lot more often than I would males. Females are probably going to need a little bit more time in prep than males would because I could push a male so much more aggressively, so much harder over a period of time. But again, I think it really all comes back to that mental space that somebody is or isn't in. At the end of the day, it's if I have a really good client that's going to listen to everything that we're going to do, that we can take the precautions that are necessary. It's to me, it's all about that end result one way or the other. How we get there is up for debate in terms of who's harder to push there. But again, it's about getting to those points where you can make those judgment calls about refeeds, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That comes from somebody sticking to the plan to begin with. I also think that, it's a little bit, the divisions in the categories are a little bit harder to manage for women than they are for men. You know what I mean? I think when you look at men in the different categories that we have, it's like if you have no legs, you're hopping in men's physique. And don't get me wrong, there are some physiques based on size that might be better for men's physique. But when it comes to like classic physique, it's really your look and your genetic build that allows you to be there. You can't blow that out during an off season, which is something you definitely have to manage. But it's also like your genetic makeup and your build there. You know what I mean? In terms of your symmetry, your aesthetics. Right. Bodybuilding is obviously going to be based on size. Right. And then with women, though, there's so much more differentiation between those divisions, and being able to land that plan into peak week becomes something, or into the show, I should say, because something that needs a little bit more management sometimes.
All right. You got any more?
Yeah, I got one more.
Is it a quick one?
What does that say? Hey, that's up. I may get some device.
Oh no, we're
about bodybuilding.
We're all being tapped into. That's what the fuck that means.
The only other thing I got is where was it? Oh, does your body have a point post prep where it stops gaining weight?
Sure. Yeah, I don't want to find the fuck out. I don't.
I mean, do you mean muscle or weight? Right. I mean, like you were,
I think she's talking weight specifically. Like she's gaining weight and she wants to know, is there a point post prep where you stop gaining
what kind
weight?
of weight though? Is it, are you reversing properly? Is
Like,
this, are you binging?
Yeah, so this is coming from somebody that's already reversed and they're already at a point where that maintenance caloric intake, but they're gaining weight here and there. And I would say
Female?
in this particular case and in many others, female.
So
either get blood work,
Hi.
right, to figure out if something's wrong, or it's a matter of you sticking to your diet. And it's really one of the two things. It's either there's something going on as far as thyroid function or hormones or something like that that's making you consistently gain weight, or you're not sticking to your diet. And that's really what it's going to come down to.
Potentially insulin sensitivity, right? Like if she's reversed pretty heavily, she's in a pretty big surplus. If she's not testing her blood sugar or using things like berberine or whatever to help with that insulin response, checking those would be a good place to check as well, and then respond appropriately, right? If your numbers are high, start scaling back on the food a bit. Like there's nothing wrong with doing a bit of a recomp when you're in a bulk, well, not a bulk, but like a reverse, or you're in a heavy off season, right?
Yep.
All right, guys, that's gonna be it for me. I'm calling it at 7:30.
Same.
So
I just let the last question know. We'll get to them next week.
Yeah, I told him get a GI mat.
There you go.
Justin, thanks for guest
thank
starring.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it, man.
It was fun. Took a lot of Anadrol before coming on here.
Always.
All right, guys.
All right,
Talk to you guys later.
See you guys.
See you guys.
Should I do an outro?
All right.
Am I outroing?
Sure.
Steve, you're still
all right.
live.
Thank you everyone for listening. Catch you
There
guys
you
next.
go. You're off. Sorry.